While Beijing's gray hulls patrol the contested waters of the South China Sea and Chinese vessels swarm Philippine reefs, Manila appears to stand alone against Asia's rising superpower. But behind the diplomatic statements and naval exercises, a silent coalition is forming. The South China Sea holds 1/3 of global maritime trade, making Chinese control a threat to nations worldwide. 7 countries are quietly strengthening the Philippines' strategic position, providing advanced radar systems, joint military exercises, and diplomatic backing. This isn't just about territorial disputes, it's about reshaping the balance of power in the world's most strategically important waterway. Country number 1, United States. At the center of Philippine security stands the United States, Manila's most powerful and enduring strategic partner, whose support extends far beyond traditional alliance commitments through the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. Under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, Washington has gained access to 9 Philippine military bases, including strategically located facilities facing the South China Sea. The U.S. provides the Philippines with advanced intelligence capabilities, including sophisticated radar systems that monitor Chinese military movements across contested waters. American forces regularly conduct joint exercises with the armed forces of the Philippines, focusing on maritime domain awareness and island defense scenarios that directly apply to South China Sea contingencies. The U.S. Coast Guard has expanded cooperation with its Philippine counterpart, providing patrol vessels and training programs that strengthen Manila's ability to monitor its exclusive economic zone. This civilian maritime partnership allows the Philippines to maintain presence in disputed areas without triggering military escalation with China. America's strategic interest is clear, preventing Chinese control over shipping lanes that carry $3.4 trillion in annual trade. By strengthening Philippine capabilities, Washington maintains the balance of power without direct confrontation. The recent announcement of additional EDCA sites demonstrates America's long-term commitment to Philippine security, sending a clear message to Beijing that Manila will not face Chinese pressure alone. But the most sophisticated technology transfer comes from an unexpected Asian ally. Country number 2, Japan. Japan has quietly emerged as one of the Philippines' most technologically advanced defense partners, leveraging cutting-edge technology and shared concerns about Chinese expansion. Japan's strategic relationship with Manila centers on maritime security cooperation and defense technology transfers that directly enhance Philippine capabilities in the South China Sea. The Japanese government has provided the Philippines with advanced patrol vessels through its official development assistance program, significantly upgrading the Philippine Coast Guard's ability to monitor contested waters. These vessels represent some of the most capable platforms in Philippine service. Equipped with modern surveillance systems and extended patrol capabilities, Japan's self-defense forces regularly conduct joint exercises with Philippine forces, focusing on humanitarian assistance scenarios that build interoperability while avoiding provocative displays. However, these exercises develop capabilities directly applicable to maritime defense and island security operations. Tokyo's technology transfers extend beyond vessels to include radar systems, communications equipment, and training programs that strengthen Philippine maritime domain awareness. Japan's expertise in anti-submarine warfare and maritime surveillance provides the Philippines with capabilities specifically designed to counter Chinese naval expansion. Japan's strategic calculus is straightforward. Chinese control of the South China Sea would threaten Japanese trade routes and potentially isolate Japan from Southeast Asian partners. By strengthening Philippine maritime capabilities, Tokyo creates a strategic buffer while demonstrating regional solidarity against Chinese pressure. Meanwhile, a major Western ally has made the Philippines central to its Indo-Pacific strategy. Country number 3, Australia. Canberra has transformed its relationship with Manila into one of the most comprehensive defense partnerships in Southeast Asia through the 2007 Status of Visiting Forces Agreement and subsequent strategic initiatives. Australia's support reflects broader concerns about maintaining open sea lanes and preventing Chinese dominance in Southeast Asian waters. The Royal Australian Air Force regularly conducts joint exercises with Philippine forces, including sophisticated maritime patrol operations that enhance the Philippines' ability to monitor the South China Sea. These exercises often involve Australia's advanced P-8 Poseidon aircraft, providing Philippine personnel with exposure to cutting-edge maritime surveillance capabilities. Australia has committed to sharing intelligence and conducting coordinated patrols in international waters, creating a network of allied surveillance that complicates Chinese military planning. The Australian Defence Force's expertise in amphibious operations and maritime security directly supports Philippine capabilities in defending disputed territories. Canberra's defense exports to the Philippines include advanced communications, systems and training programs that strengthen Philippine military effectiveness. Australia's unique position as a major power with no territorial claims in the South China Sea allows it to provide support without appearing to escalate regional tensions. Australia's strategic interest lies in maintaining the rules-based international order that has enabled decades of regional prosperity. By supporting Philippine sovereignty claims, Canberra reinforces international law while building a coalition of like-minded nations committed to preventing Chinese hegemony in Southeast Asian waters. But one emerging superpower brings an entirely different strategic dimension to this coalition. Country number 4, India. New Delhi's growing partnership with Manila represents one of the most significant strategic developments in the Indo-Pacific, driven by India's Act East policy and shared democratic values. India's support for the Philippines extends across defense cooperation, maritime security, and strategic coordination that directly challenges Chinese influence in Southeast Asia. The Indian Navy has expanded engagement with Philippine forces through joint exercises and port visits that demonstrate growing strategic coordination between the two democracies. India's expertise in missile technology and naval systems provides the Philippines with advanced capabilities specifically relevant to maritime defense scenarios. India has offered the Philippines access to advanced radar systems and surveillance technology developed for India's own border security requirements. These systems enhance Philippine maritime domain awareness while reducing dependence on Chinese technology that could compromise sensitive security information. New Delhi's diplomatic support for Philippine positions in the South China Sea reinforces international law and the 2016 arbitration ruling that rejected Chinese territorial claims. India's position as a major power outside traditional alliance structures provides the Philippines with an important voice in international forums. India's strategic calculus centers on preventing Chinese control of sea lanes that carry 95% of India's trade with East Asia. By strengthening Philippine capabilities, New Delhi supports a fellow democracy while building strategic partnerships that counterbalance Chinese influence across the Indo-Pacific region. Country number 5, Vietnam. Vietnam represents the most complex case of support for Philippine positions, as Hanoi shares similar territorial disputes with China while maintaining intricate economic relationships with Beijing. Vietnam's coordination with the Philippines demonstrates how shared strategic concerns can overcome traditional diplomatic caution. Vietnam and the Philippines have increased intelligence sharing about Chinese activities in the South China Sea, creating a surveillance network that covers contested areas from multiple perspectives. Both countries face similar challenges from Chinese Coast Guard operations and maritime militia activities, leading to informal coordination of responses. Vietnamese diplomatic support for Philippine positions in international forums strengthens the legal framework opposing Chinese territorial claims. While Vietnam maintains its own distinct claims, Hanoi consistently supports the principle of international law that underlies Philippine legal victories against China. The growing Vietnamese naval capabilities provide an additional complication for Chinese military planning in the South China Sea. While Vietnam doesn't directly support Philippine military operations, Vietnamese naval presence requires Chinese forces to consider multiple contingencies simultaneously. Vietnam's strategic value to the Philippines lies not in formal military cooperation but in shared resistance to Chinese expansion. By maintaining its own territorial claims and military capabilities, Vietnam ensures that China cannot focus exclusively on Philippine challenges to Chinese authority in contested waters. Two Western allies have also quietly strengthened their commitment to Philippine sovereignty. Country number 6, Canada. Ottawa's support for the Philippines reflects Canada's broader commitment to international law and multilateral approaches to regional security. While geographically distant from the South China Sea, Canada has significant economic interests in maintaining open shipping lanes and preventing the militarization of international waters. The Canadian Armed Forces have expanded engagement with Philippine counterparts through training programs and joint exercises that focus on peacekeeping and humanitarian operations. These programs build Philippine capabilities while demonstrating Canadian commitment to regional stability and the rules-based international order. Canada has provided development assistance that strengthens Philippine maritime law enforcement capabilities, including training for the Philippine Coast Guard and support for maritime domain awareness systems. This civilian security cooperation enhances Philippine sovereignty without appearing to militarize the dispute with China. Canadian diplomatic support consistently reinforces Philippine legal positions in international forums, particularly regarding the 2016 arbitration ruling that invalidated Chinese territorial claims. Canada's role as a middle power with no regional territorial ambitions provides credible support for international law. Canada's strategic interest lies in maintaining the principle that international law applies to all nations, regardless of military or economic power. By supporting Philippine sovereignty claims, Ottawa reinforces the legal framework that protects smaller nations from coercion by regional powers. The final member of this coalition brings unique historical ties and renewed strategic focus to the region. Country number 7, United Kingdom. London's renewed engagement with the Philippines reflects Britain's post-Brexit, global Britain strategy and growing concerns about Chinese expansion in the Indo-Pacific. The UK's support combines historical Commonwealth relationships with modern, strategic requirement is for maintaining open sea lanes and supporting democratic allies. The Royal Navy has increased its presence in Southeast Asian waters through deployments that demonstrate British commitment to freedom of navigation and regional stability. These operations often coordinate with Philippine forces and other regional partners, creating a visible international presence in contested waters. Britain has offered the Philippines access to advanced training programs and defense technology through existing relationships and new bilateral partnerships. British expertise in maritime security and intelligence operations provides valuable capabilities for Philippine defense planning. London's diplomatic support consistently reinforces Philippine legal positions while emphasizing the broader principle of international law in resolving territorial disputes. Britain's permanent seat on the UN Security Council provides additional leverage for Philippine positions in international forums. The UK's strategic calculation recognizes that Chinese control of South China Sea shipping lanes would threaten British trade relationships with Asia-Pacific partners. By supporting Philippine sovereignty, London maintains strategic relationships while reinforcing legal principles that protect British interests globally. At first glance, the Philippines appears isolated against China in the South China Sea. But 7 nations are quietly providing diplomatic, technological, and military support that fundamentally alters the regional balance of power. From American military guarantees to Japanese technology transfers, from Australian intelligence sharing to Indian naval cooperation, this hidden coalition demonstrates how shared commitment to international law can transcend traditional alliance structures. As tensions escalate in these contested waters, this strategic network may prove decisive in determining whether international law or military power ultimately shapes the future of the Indo-Pacific.